Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland, and here I am in Twickenham, London. And beside me is this urn, which is a memorial to Alexander Pope. This statue was erected in 2015. Doesn't do it for me, I'm afraid. So why the urn? Well, in his friend Hagley's house in Worcestershire, they had some urn memorial to him, which I don't think exists anymore. And Alexander Pope took a lively interest in gardening. He being, I suppose, slightly before Lancelot Capability Brown really made a name for himself in this part of the country. So Alexander Pope is best known as a poet, and indeed one of the most highly esteemed poet in English, or indeed any language, and the second most quoted person in English after William Shakespeare. So Pope was born in London in 1688, the City of London, as in the financial district, and back then that was the only thing that counted as London. Here in Twickenham, this was a village in Middlesex, some distance away. So he was brought up in a Catholic family. 1688 was not a year of happy augury for the Roman Catholic minority upon this island. That's the revolution that year, the Glorious Revolution, so Protestants called it. So James II, he fled for his life to France, where he was sheltered by the Sun King Louis XIV, who was a partisan of all things Catholic. So what next? So William III came in. He'd have overthrown his father-in-law and indeed his uncle, being one of the same person. William III, Stadtholder of the Netherlands. He married he was already married to his cousin Mary, so they were declared joint sovereigns, William and Mary, as in the college in the United States which bears their name. So they said, we're going to uphold the supremacy of the Reformation. William III was not personally bigoted. As William of Orange, he'd had many Catholics who fought for him, including indeed the Blue Guards, who fought for them at the Battle of the Boyne, were exclusively Catholic. But anyway, if this revolution was about anything, it was the supremacy of Parliament, and monarchs simply had to accept the will of Parliament. James II's Act of Toleration, Act of Indulgence, allowing religious equality, were unacceptable to the majority of people who were prejudiced against the Catholic minority, as well as against dissenters, that's to say, Protestants outside the established churches. So the Pope family, they ran afoul of such legislation, the Test Act in particular. Test not to verify that you have certain knowledge or you comprehend things, you can express yourself, whatever it is, problem solving. No. It's not something academic or to do with cognition. Test was to prove that you subscribe to certain religious beliefs, the 39 Articles of the Church of England or the Westminster Confession of Faith, that you abjured the authority of the Roman pontiff, things such as that you accepted the legitimacy of William III. So the Pope family were discriminated against. They wouldn't have been able to hold public offices. They would not have been able to attend university and so forth. Now, Alexander Pope's father, he'd made a fortune in the linen trade, which was really taking off back then, partly because Huguenots, French Protestants, ironically, had fled to this realm upon the revocation of the Edict of Nantes in 1685. Right, excuse me a second.